Nancy is trolling Democrats for appearing to come up short in Ohio's 12th district special election, a race that's still too close to call.
Close in Ohio 12, but no cigar, at least not yet.
This is a moral victory for the Democrats. The fact that they're this close is a moral victory for the Democrats. You want a real victory.
We got some mojo, all right? So I don't know if it's a moral victory or whatever.
Moral victory, moral victories.
Moral victory.
Moral victory does not get you an office in Washington.
Karl Rove reacting to the election results by saying the blue wave could be receding and Republicans have a fighting chance to keep the House majority. This comes as more Democrats are distancing themselves from party leader Nancy Pelosi.
Would you back Pelosi for Speaker if you win and are in the House?
Well, I think, again, we don't want to get ahead of ourselves. As you mentioned, I got to win my race first, but we got to take a look at what's going on. We got to take a look at winning the House back in November. And then once the House is won, we have to make that decision from there.
Will you vote for Nancy Pelosi?
Probably not.
Probably not.
That's my answer. No, probably not. She doesn't speak about the issues that are important to the families of the 13th congressional district.
All right, Jason, Nancy Pelosi's got a lot of high tolerance for this kind of thing. She doesn't ever get in the middle. She just lets them say what they want because she wants to win.
Oh, she's keeping track. Are you kidding?
Oh, she's keeping track, but she keeps quiet.
She's got a tally.
Right.
Don't be fooling anybody. And you know what? It is a legitimate question because it's the very first thing you do as a new member of Congress. You have to go in front of the entire body and call out who is it that you're going to vote for. And the reality is the Democrats, they lack leadership. I don't think they have the right policies. And to the point of the piece beforehand, I don't think there is some big wave that's coming from the Democrats. I sat there in 2010, the year after the election after Barack Obama. They took, I think it was a net of 63 seats that switched hands, and there was this big tsunami, and I don't see any evidence of it happening this time.
All right. I was so excited to talk politics, I didn't do what I meant to do, which is to introduce Morgan.
Yeah, nice
to
work.
all of you and to the audience.
So
I was like very rude. I'm very rude. I'm known for that, really, to being very rude. Morgan, welcome.
Thank you.
Tell us a little about yourself. Where are you from?
Well, I'm thrilled to be here. I've been watching this show for ages, so happy to be here. I live in New York City, but I'm from Florida. I am in the U.S. Navy Reserves. I've been stationed as a civilian in Saudi Arabia at the U.S. Embassy there and in Baghdad. I think we've got some fun pictures of me looking like a dork in my Kevlar.
You look safe, actually.
That's a very graceful picture of me in the Saudi Arabian desert. That's a classic. And this is me getting promoted a couple years ago.
Anchors
in the
away.
reserve. Thank you, sir. And one of my favorite things, I'm an identical twin. I will give all of you $10 if you can guess which one is me.
You're on the left.
You're on the left.
Nope.
Wait, you look totally different.
And of course,
wait, you don't look anything
You are not
like
wearing
Ed
those
Rollins.
glasses. That is not you in the glasses. No way.
Is that Ed Rollins? Who is
that is Ed. So I was going to say, I moved to New York in 2006 to work on KT McFarland's Senate race as her press secretary. Ed Rollins brought me to New York, and I literally lived with KT, so it's very incestuous here at Fox News with all of the connections.
That's true. Also, you had another thing. You said you and your grandfather used to.
I said before the show that I love Geraldo because I grew up with my grandfather watching cable news, and we watched the first Iraq War with you reporting from both Iraq wars, actually. And
91.
I'm a big fan.
But I used to get, all the pretty girls said, "Oh, I love you, Geraldo." Then the pretty girls would say, "Oh, my mother loves you, Geraldo." But now the pretty girls say, "Oh, my grandmother loves you, Geraldo."
No, it's nostalgia. It's very good nostalgia.
That's me walking, talking nostalgia.
No, that's like, and Greg, like all the older ladies love you.
I'm like the son they allow to get away with saying really awful things.
That's true.
Like they would punish me if I was their kid, but they just treat me like, oh, he doesn't really mean that, but I do.
Anyway, Morgan, welcome to you. And
Thank you.
Would you like to comment on the state of the midterms?
So it was interesting to me. I was listening to what they were saying, moral victory, and I thought moral victory is like the new liberal version of participation trophy. Like, when you were kids, I'm the resident millennial on the panel. So when we were millennials, we were kids, we get participation trophies if we didn't do well. So I think as long as they want to keep saying moral victory, they can have their participation trophy, but there's one winner, there's one person that gets sworn in, and one person who's not, and it's a winner-take-all game.
I do have to say, Geraldo, that when reading Karl Rove's column this morning reminded me of August of 2006 when I was the deputy spokesperson, and he was the political director and deputy chief of staff, and I'd go in and say, Karl, they're asking me again how you're feeling about the midterms, and he would tell me, well, all these things are going in our direction, and until they weren't.
Until they weren't. Yeah. Midterms are tough, but the thing about moral victories is, and it's interesting, a participation trophy. I think of a moral victory plus $2.75 gets you a token on the subway. They don't even use tokens anymore, the MTA card. It is, I think the Democrats are facing a potential problem with this division. Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez, we have been playing her. She's like the best advertisement for Republicans, but she represents a wing of the Democratic Party that's very fervent, energetic, but it is not the Nancy Pelosi mainstream wing of let's get things done. There is a division within the Democratic Party that I think bodes well for Republicans. I don't think Trump or the Republicans are out of the woods by any means. But I do think that at this stage, with, what is it, less than 3 months to go before the election, the Democrats could be far more united, far more formidable. They have put up some good candidates. I think the guy who ran against Bolderson in Ohio, Danny Boy, was a good candidate. Came up short. I think that there'll be some marginal shifting as of right now. If I were handicapping, I say it's basically a wash. It'll be a divided
The
divided
one thing
house.
about Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez is it's not that conservatives are putting her on television and interviewing her all the time. The media has made her a star.
Exactly. What's being done with her is what CNN did with Trump. And they shined a spotlight on this unusual character, and they laugh. But remember who got the last laugh? It wasn't CNN. It was Trump. So remember, when you target somebody, often the target gets better because they're listening and they learn from the mistakes and they see what works. So she might grow precisely because of the sunlight. As for the ad, can I ask
you one question?
Sure.
And I don't mean to cut you off, but do you think a 50-year-old white guy is going to vote for Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez under any circumstance?
Of course. I don't see it.
Of course, not any circumstances, but do you think that that's really going to happen?
Sure. Why not? I mean,
I don't see it. It's not going to.
I think you asked that question so you could answer it.
I did.
That's what Geraldo does. No, but I think in terms of I believe for the Democrats, moral victories are to them real victories, and I hope they're undefeated with their moral victories because moral victories will not nominate a judge.
Right.
It will not reverse any executive orders. You won't get to the White House on a moral victory. Right. I'll take an immoral victory over a moral loss.
Jason, I want you to listen to Andrew Cuomo. He's telling Democrats to be less negative. Watch.
I would like to see the Democratic Party, frankly, be less negative because Trump is doing the best negative case that we could ever do, and start to be more affirmative about what the Democrats will do when we get in power. If you look back, I believe that's why the Democrats have lost in the past. We have not had a credible vision that people believed would make their life better. And people have to believe you can do it. It can't be abstract, theoretical, pie in the sky.
All right, are Democrats too negative?
Well, yes, but they don't have anything to go to. They are the resistance movement. They are scorched earth. They want to raise your taxes. They want to give the gavel back to Nancy Pelosi. And if you ask yourself at home, what do Democrats stand for? What do they really want to do? The answer is they want to get rid of the tax cuts. They want to go back to these policies that don't make any sense. I don't think they have a positive message. And then the same Andrew Cuomo, we're going to talk about it later in the show, goes out and says, I'm not going to cooperate with ICE. Well, that doesn't sound like somebody who's trying to be positive.
The other thing, though, Morgan, is that as everybody complains about negative ads, but negative ads work. So if you're not in power, the only way to actually get your message across is to say that the other person is doing bad. Even if you want to get a positive message out there, in some ways, I guess Alexandria, for example, is going out talking about Medicare for all, free tuition, those types of things. Looks like a positive message, but if you're an independent voter, it might be a negative.
I just wish that people would quit comparing her to a beauty queen, because as a former beauty queen, I can say that everyone that I've worked with in the Miss America system is a hell of a lot smarter than her, or at least better at being on stage.
Say that?
Because I think she's terrible on television. I mean, look at the stuff that she says.
She's terrible because she hasn't thought through how to pay for the wonderful programs that she keeps proposing.
Right, well, because
like
there is no way to pay for them
without
without bankrupting the U.S. government. So, listen, but what you're getting at is, who's motivated to come out to the polls in November, right? That's the real question. And I think even if they don't have a unifying message, I do think that Democrats are motivated to come out. So I think it's going to be a really long election night. It's going to be close in a lot of districts. But while I don't love the message, I do think that they are motivated. And I think that's why you're seeing the president get involved in these primary races and the races around the country, because quite frankly, he is what is most unifying, most motivating for Republicans.
It's so interesting because right before the show, the president was doing a roundtable in New Jersey. He was talking about prison reform. And you would think that most Democrats would agree with him on that, like want to come to the table and actually work with him on that. It's something that actually could get done.
It wasn't even a round table. Did you notice
No,
that?
it was kind of rectangular.
It was a rectangular table. It was a rectangle table. But what you're talking about are the problems with the Democratic Party. It's not just the negative messaging, but also a lack of ideas. And so what the interesting thing about Trump is that he's open to almost any idea. And I mean, you saw that with North Korea is the ultimate example of being open to any idea. And I think he will be open to prison reform. He's open to even certain things about immigration that, I mean, granting essentially amnesty to over 1 million people. I want to bring up, I like to, I spend a lot of time in pharmacies, just for reasons that I can't get into. But the Democrat Party, when it comes to health care,
condoms,
they're throwing socialism around because they don't have any ideas. Meanwhile, you look at CVS, a drugstore, is unveiling a telemedicine app, right? This is going to allow you to go and see a doctor via, your whatever screen you have. That solves health care, not socialism, not free health care. Not you could give Bernie Sanders trillions of dollars. He would not come up with an idea like telemedicine. This is going to be solved. All the problems are going to be solved by capitalism because capitalism replaces force with innovation, and the Democrats are still stuck on force, and they're scared of ideas and innovation.
The problem is that nobody on either side of the aisle is going to work with the other side of the aisle. Infrastructure, for instance, a no-brainer.
But that's why the private sector
get all kinds of kudos.
But that's why the private sector
let's have new highways. Let's have new this.
But the private sector figures it out. Like that type of innovation. Like you don't even have to have health insurance if you want to pay out of your pocket for the telemedicine from CVS, and that could solve a lot of problems.
Yeah, but I mean that is the solution. It isn't socialism, and the Democrats came up with specific ideas for once. It'd be kind of encouraging. Just once. Give us one idea.
Once. All right, well, we'll see if they hear you and if they respond with one idea.
They watch this show.
Just one more idea.
All right. How about legalizing someone who's been here for 30 years and has citizen children?
Well, that was what Greg just said, that the president was open to
Yeah, he was going to do that. And you're looking at some pretty progressive drug laws going on right now.
Yes, you are.